Well, good evening. It's 6:30, I believe. Looks like it's going to be 6:30 for a while if the clocks don't start working again here. Well, we'll do a short meeting, but we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to our board meeting tonight. Just for your information, we had a study session at 4:30 where we talked about legislative priorities for the upcoming legislative session, the 2019 session. And we will begin tonight with a flag salute. Trying to see, oh, there, perfect. By Curie Stem Elementary, Principal Valerie Aragon.
Good evening, President Christensen, Superintendent Whitney, distinguished board members. It is my honor to be here at our very first board meeting with our we want to take a couple of minutes to recognize, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to recognize our outstanding chess program at Curie and actually in our district. And our district program has been so successful because of a woman that's standing behind me and our students. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Lopez. He is a chess coach at Curie as well as an amazing sixth grade teacher, and Miss Lau, who is our chess coach as well as a district chess program. And just personally, over the last 15 years, our program has grown amazingly. And so Miss Lau, I'd like her to talk about why the students were selected to be here this evening, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll have the students introduce themselves. Ms. Lau?
Good evening. I'm Edith Lau, and I teach at Curie. I teach fourth grade bilingual, and these 5 students were chosen due to their outstanding chess performance. We've had one that started since kindergarten, and a few that started in first grade and then second grade, but yet they're continuing on, and they're all 5th graders. All of these students have been invited to selected Tri-City Regional Tournament of Champions because of their performance at the various tournaments and including state. With these 5 students, they have a total of about 17 times to collective of attending state, which is a big honor. Also, this group is amazing considering Curie's only 3rd through 6th, and in the 2017 state chess tournament, as just 3rd graders took 25th place out of the K3 school teams out of 132 school teams. So we can go up, right? So last year in 2018 state chess, again, these 5 were also their scores were collective. Their scores combined placed them last year for the grades 4-6 teams, 13th place out of 177 school teams. So it is with my honor to select these 5 individuals to lead the flag salute.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to have Brian lead the introductions.
My name is Brian Romero, and my mom is, her name is Griselda Romero. Hi, my name is Christopher. My mom couldn't come today because she was at work.
Hi, my name is Oscar Mendoza, and my mom's name is Maria Montejano.
Hi, my name is Alma Bañuelos, and my dad's name is Juan Bañuelos.
Hi, my name is Ricky Martinez, and my parents are here. My mom's name is Veronica Garcia, and my dad's name is Juan Martinez.
Thank you, students. So we'd like to have you come right up here. We've got a little pin for you, and we want to get your picture taken. While you guys, so, yeah. So you just take those up there, give one to each of them.
I can't believe it's been 15 years. Really?
That's really grown. I'm going to say in the last 15 years, it's grown tremendously. We've had
The chess? Wow.
So while the students are being organized, I also just wanted to echo Principal Aragon's acknowledgement of Edith, as well as a variety of other people who act as coaches. We have the largest chess program in the state of Washington, and this has been a highly successful program, and really because of the commitment of our parents, our kids, and the staff who help run it. It's an extraordinary honor. And for those of us who've been around a while, we had a beloved administrator, Danny Delafield, who the chess program was really near and dear to his heart, and he passed away, and as part of his legacy, we have all dug in and committed around this. And to see such an extraordinary effort and the acknowledgement of this program and the growth of it is just such an amazing accomplishment in a way that we've really honored his legacy in this district. So it's really an incredible thing. So thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you, parents.
So thank you, students. And I think we had some parents that were acknowledged, parents or family members of these students. If you'd like to stand, and we'll acknowledge you as well.
Padres se pueden parar. Gracias.
So thank you for coming tonight, students, and thank you, parents, for sharing your wonderful, wonderful students with us.
And anytime you have a chance to go to a chess tournament, it's wonderful. It's very exciting to watch all of the kids from all over the area play chess.
Yeah. Thank you, Principal Aragon, and your staff there. Thank you for coming tonight and doing the flag ceremony with us. All right, so could we get roll call? Present?
Present?
Present.
She is excused. She should be here shortly. Thank you.
Present.
Present. Present. Present.
All right, thank you. Agenda review?
There are no additions or changes to the board agenda. However, I would like to call your attention to a request for an executive session under 4231-101G for personnel.
Okay, thank you. So this is the portion of our meeting where we'll have audience comments. Anybody wishing to address the board can come up to the microphone. We ask that you tell us your name and your affiliation with the district if you want to do that. We do limit you to 2 minutes. Ms. Thornton has the envelopes over here. These are the reminders. The yellow one means you've got 30 seconds left, and the red one means your time is expired. So if you could finish your thought, we won't cut you off, but we'd like you to finish your thought and then turn the time over to the next person. So, and we don't yield time in this meeting. If you have something more to say and you want to send that to us, you're welcome to do that. We read the comments that come into us. So, and if you would like further information or clarification, you can leave your name and email address at the back of the room, right? So. Okay, so with that, we will open it up for audience comments. Yeah, just.
Good evening. My name's Elena Price, and I'm a school bus driver for Pasco for 7 years. And I'd like to address a situation or multiple situations that I've encountered as a school bus driver at Pasco. I do want to bring up the fact that I, along with my other coworkers, feel we have a very hostile environment at transportation. We feel, me personally, that I've been targeted by the staff there. I have repeatedly spoke to Randy Nunemaker, Mr. Jose Hernandez, my supervisor, and I feel that I'm being targeted because of different issues all occurred in May of this year. One, for instance, is the fact that my dog was in my car, which has nothing to do with the way I drive my school bus. Pictures are being taken of my car in the parking lot, and those are being addressed by Mr. Jose Hernandez. And I've asked him multiple times, please explain to me how that affects my bus driving. I show up on a regular basis to my job. I'm also a real estate agent. I've been a real estate agent for 22 years, professional. And school bus driving, I do not do for the little bit of money that I make. I do it because I enjoy my kids. And I've repeated that to Mr. Jose Hernandez. My personal time, since I've been here, has never been granted up until this year. Also, spoke to Mr. Randy Nunemaker about that and Mr. Hernandez. There's other issues also as far as I've addressed issues on my school bus, that because there's cameras on our school bus, and I've been told that they are too busy to pull my cameras and they don't have the time, but yet they will have the time to reprimand me of little minute trivial things, such as not marking the X boxes on our sheets that we fill out, our log sheets, every day. Thank you so much for listening to me this evening. And if nothing is going to be done, we as a group are prepared to walk as school bus drivers and stand together.
Thank you, Mrs. Price.
My name is Mike Bote. I'm also a school bus driver. This is my 13th year. We as a group feel that our cameras, hard drives, should be pulled independently, not by personnel at the lot. For some reason, when we need verification for ourselves, they mysteriously did not work that day. This has happened to many of us. But when they're looking at a punishment issue, they work. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia Cook. This is my second year as a school bus driver. Before that, I was a bus attendant. This year, they've implemented a new policy that we are not to use any facilities besides those at the schools or school district property for restroom breaks. I'll give you an instance for me. I have stage 3 kidney failure. I am doing a route right now where there is no school for me to stop and use the facility. I went and spoke to one of our supervisors today, and she told me that I had permission in an emergency to use a different facility, but now I have to write a note saying that I used this facility, where it was, what time, and put it in her box. I feel that is absolutely beyond anything I can think of. I'm a grown adult. We looked up on Labor and Industries, per the WAC 296-800-230, they have to give us a facility that is within our scope because of it can have various health effects. Medical studies have identified adverse health effects that may result in preventing the use of a bathroom. It can be a urinary tract infection, bladder obstruction, in rare situations, kidney damage. It can include constipation, abdominal pain, hemorrhoids, and intestinal tract inflammation, which can result in very severe health issues. Also, it says here that the employer must not impose unreasonable restrictions on employees' use of bathrooms or toilet facilities. I know it's not just myself that we feel that this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there is no reason that we should not be able to stop somewhere and take 3 minutes to use a restroom. Some of us do not have the time or the place to go out of our way to go to a school to use the rest area. I thank you very much for listening to me tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karina Welty. I'm a school bus driver for Pasco. I've been driving school buses for about 15 years. I've had a Class A CDL for 35 years. I have a lot of issues with what's going on in our place of employment right now. I've had more negative conflict with my supervisors since school started this year than I've had in my entire working career. I got talked to for going 1 mile over the speed limit. I expressed to my supervisor that I wrote up a work order for the mechanics last June to have my speedometer calibrated because I felt like it was a couple of miles over. And nothing ever happened, but now I got written up and something put in my file for going over the speed limit in a school zone. I asked again, wrote another work order asking the mechanics to please calibrate my bus. I have a mechanic that came out and he told me that they calibrate buses with a phone app called Digital HUD, and that he would take my bus out with his phone app and lay his phone on the dash and calibrate my bus. And I have the, also, if you'd like to see, I have his conclusion that he says it's 2 miles off. So I would like that taken out of my file, and I would like, honestly, if they're gonna write us up for 1 mile over the speed limit, and I'm not the only one that happened to, they need to calibrate the buses. They need to have an official way to calibrate these school buses because I don't speed.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Welty.
Over already? We have a lot.
Hi, my name is Cecilia. I am a school bus driver. I am here and I'm actually pretty concerned and feel that most of us don't get up and are happy to go to our jobs anymore because, for instance, I've been sick. I've been fighting a cold for over a week now. Last week I was really sick. I went to work Thursday morning. After my morning run, I went home and I had a fever. I called into work. I spoke to a receptionist. I let her know I had gone home. I was sick and I probably wouldn't be back to work Friday. At 1:30, I get a call from work and I was asleep. I didn't feel good. I must have hit decline. So I saw it was work, so I called right back. As I was speaking to the person that had called me, I get that I had a voicemail. So the person I spoke to told me, take the rest of the day off because obviously I wasn't going to go in when I had a fever. And she said, instead of saying that you weren't coming in tomorrow, which I said, no, that's not what I said. I explained to the receptionist that I was ill today and if I probably would not be in on Friday. I said, because I've been fighting with this cold for over a week. So she expressed to me that we were short on bus drivers, which we all know. We're all short on bus drivers. But my priority is to be able to be safe and not be choking while I'm trying to drive because I have a bad cough and I don't feel good, and keep my children safe on my bus. And also by being very ill and coughing all over the place, I can get my coworkers sick. So if we all get sick, who's going to drive our buses? Who's going to get our kids to school? Nobody will. So I expressed to her that that's not what I said, and I would call her if I wasn't going to make it. She then said, that's fine, but I would really appreciate if you can come in tomorrow. And I said, I'll call you whether I can or I can't, which I didn't show up to work because I had been sick. However, I get there yesterday morning and my keys for my bus are missing. There's a note to go see somebody in the office. My first assumption was I lost my job because I called in sick. That was not the case because I am still here today. But it's not safe and it's not okay for any of us to feel this way every day we get to work.
right.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Raymond, and I've been a substitute bus driver for the Pasco School District for 15 and a half years, which was a good agency to work for, and morale was great. The key, I think, was we were told by Walt Goebel he appreciated us and all our hard work. He also told us he had our backs. He made us feel like a team. It's not that way anymore. The building blocks that were there are gone. I had a situation that happened 2 years ago where my job was threatened. Prior to that, I was very vocal about unsafe situations and no access to supervisors to report to. There definitely was a target on me, and I can go into detail if anyone is interested at a later time. I'm losing hope that things are not going to change. This year has been the most dysfunctional beginning of school I have encountered in my 15 years here. I love my job, but it has been harder and harder to stick with it the last 5 or 6 years when it doesn't seem to be improving. I am considering just walking away.
Hello, my name is Karen Gray, 20-year veteran of the Pasco School District as a bus driver. I'm here reference to a new document that we got at our in-service. It's a new log sheet for accountability for both the buses and us. At the in-service, we were given this with little to no instructions on it. We had 2 presenters that gave it to us to tell us what we were supposed to do. Every time we asked a question in regards to what it was, we got, you know as much as we do, don't shoot the messengers. There's contradictions continuously on it. It says actual drive time. Then it says TCP, clock in time. Those are 20 minutes difference. Which one are we supposed to use? We were not told. In the ensuing 10 days since school has started, every time somebody asks an issue on this, we get a different response. Is engine off brake testing for a service and a park brake belong to a hydraulic system, or does it belong to an air drive system? Never get a consistent response on it. We were told this is a legal document. We have to sign this legal document 12 times. We were told this document stays with our bus, not with the driver. In the past 20 years, our log sheets always stayed with the driver because it's a legal document with our signature on it. Now we have to relinquish this to stay with the bus if we leave that bus for whatever reason, maintenance, pull, PM, anything like that. Now we don't know where this document goes. It's supposed to be turned in at the end of the day, but it's now out of our possession, but it has our signatures on it. It can be altered once it's out of our possession. Because of this, we are now running into severe issues that could have been actually curtailed by management, Mr. Hernandez and his staff, by simply asking us, what is your input? We want a new document. We need that done. But they chose to do it on their own without anything from us. I thank you for your time.
My name is Michelle McLeod. A little background. I've been a bus driver for 21 years. I've been here for 19. I went to college. I've been secretary. I've been the lunch lady. I have been a teacher. I've been a parapro teacher. I don't know, about 16 years. Other districts included. I've been a councilwoman running a community, and I'm a commissioner for Benton County, and I am very concerned about transportation. We've never been so deeply divided. We have all kinds of issues. They were talking about the bathrooms. Well, now we're locked out of the schools as well because we're not trusted people to be able to get into the bathrooms. I don't believe I've ever felt so bullied in my life. I feel like a bullied child. One person says one thing, another person says another. That form, I wish we could let them see that. It's just so confusing and it's all out of order. And there's no way that we could ever vouch for that form because it's incorrect on so many different angles. You can't get help. If you need help, you get bullied. My tape, I'm a reliable, responsible community member. And I work for the school district. My tape was watched all year. Not one time was I ever asked what's going on. Not one time did I ever get to see the tape. Not one time was there ever an explanation of why my tape was looked at every day. And I feel threatened by that. You know, there was a day that I couldn't wait to get here. And I couldn't wait to see the other bus drivers. We don't even get along anymore. I mean, they've taken strong alpine fir. You know, we started out seedlings with Walt and Jana, and we became alpine firs. Well, there's not very many of us left. And believe me, that's what you need going down the road in those buses. It's become turmoil of locusts, just churning at each other because we're all getting beat with sticks, no matter what direction that you come in. There's no answers, there's no explanations. The doors are shut, the doors are removed. We are at a point at transportation of collapse.
Okay.
And I'm not here to say anything bad about Jose or bad about Trish or
So if you
Val.
could-
We're in a
2
bad
minutes.
situation here and we need help. Thank you.
Thank you.
So slow the clock down because I'm a talker.
Well, the second hand's not working, but the minute hand seems to be moving.
So I'm Tom Spurgeon.
We'll give you your full 2 minutes.
And President, I used to sit in your chair about 30 years ago, a school board president.
What's your last name, Tom?
Spurgeon.
Spurgeon? Oh.
Probably know some of my kids and
I
et
very
cetera.
well could.
But Amy, hello. Anyway, what you've heard tonight is a lot of complaints. Some about process, some about management. Our purpose here isn't to put anybody under the bus, but to seek if we can find a way as a team with management and transportation laborers to put together a workforce that can be cohesive and work together. For instance, we had 3 or 4 new policies that was given to us in our August retreat. It would have been very nice if our young new managers would have got together with 7 or 8 of these people sitting here and said, we have 3 problems, a log sheet, a kindergartner, and a bathroom problem. Can we put together a committee to solve the problems together and then present that to the staff together? How much would that put the team together? What we notice is, and I got a business of science degree from BYU with business management and accounting, we find with young managers that they think they need to manage to build themselves up by nitpicking and not looking at the processes of where we want to go. Make transportation a cohesive, safe individual. So what we would ask is that you train on the staff there to build a team, and then let's put the team together to accomplish our goals. Now, the other question is, we feel we got a target on our back because we've been here tonight. So, Superintendent, where does the information go, and what can be done about what we've talked about?
So, Tom,
Yes.
appreciate you coming and speaking to the board. I'm pretty sure Mrs. Whitney has heard everything you've said.
I think so. Well, many
So-
of us would love to sit down and talk with you as a committee to build and not criticize. Okay?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we do need to go to the bathroom. Especially us older folks.
I can relate to that, so.
All right, thank
So-
you. We appreciate what you do for us and our jobs and our lives and our consciousness at home is in your hands.
Well, we appreciate you coming. Mr. Spurgeon, if you've sat in this chair, you know that we don't work directly with you guys, so but we appreciate you coming and making your voice heard. I am confident that Mrs. Whitney will look into these concerns, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but appreciate. So just a second, Tom. Is there anybody else who would like to speak tonight? We've heard from bus drivers. We don't want to limit anybody else. If you would like to speak, please come on up to the microphone. Okay.
I'm Tamara Pearson. I am also a bus driver at Transportation, and I'm here as a bus driver. I'm the chief steward for the drivers, so I'm excusing myself of that this evening. The hostile work environment is a big thing for our group. I go home, I'm working until 10 o'clock at night. I'm a bus driver. For Pete's sakes, I'm off the clock at 4:45. I have drivers that call me. I have drivers that are showing up at my home. I mean, these people are genuinely at their wits' end. We, as a group, as a whole, and it's not just us bus drivers, and I can't speak on the other unions, but we are begging for some help. I have talked to countless people at district office. We're done. I mean, something's got to change, and it's got to change now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Any other persons wishing to speak to the board? All right, last call. Oh, we got one more.
Good evening. My name's Linda Fraley. I drive school bus. I've been with the district about 5 years, and my concern is this. We're not getting what we need from transportation. We can't use restrooms like we need to, but yet we can haul 7,000 plus kids to school back and forth every day and get them there safely and back home, but we can't be trusted with a key card to get into the schools facilities to go to the restroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Second, final call. Anybody else? All right. So we'll close the audience comments portion of our meeting tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you, bus drivers, for the work you do. We have heard your concerns and appreciate your coming, I guess. I'm not sure what else to say without saying something that I probably shouldn't say. So thank you for coming. So, and you are welcome to stay or you are welcome to go. We will not judge you if you want to leave. We have people that find the rest of our meetings fairly not very exciting, so you are. You bet. Well, thank you for your work. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
All right.
And the rest of you can move forward.
Yeah, we've got some vacant seats up front if you want to move up. All right, so we'll continue on with our meeting tonight. So next on the agenda is approval of minutes.
Mr. President, I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 28th, 2018.
I'll second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the regular meeting minutes for August 28, 2018. Those in favor, or any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, motion carries. Consent agenda tonight, we have personnel, warrants, overnight student travel, Tijuana High School Associated Student Body Officer Team, to the Association of Washington Student Leaders Fall Leadership Conference in Kent, Washington, minimum basic education requirement compliance report, coaching contract, PAE collective bargaining agreement, resolution number 959, diversity assurances for middle school number 4 project, resolution number 960, diversity assurances for Stevens Middle School replacement project, and resolution number 961, diversity assurances for elementary number 17 project. So that is the consent agenda. Could we get a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Could we get a second?
I'll second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we get a roll call, please? Yes.
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 All right, motion carries. So, agenda item number 8, action items, live streaming of board meetings. Mr. Ettinger, looks like you're up.
Well, good evening, Board President Christensen, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. I'm here before you tonight to request board approval for the implementation of live streaming Pasco School District Board of Directors meetings over the internet. Since 2015, multiple strategies have been implemented to increase community access to our board meetings, including our current process of video recording board meetings and then posting those meetings on the district's YouTube channel. Live streaming our board meetings would allow community members to watch our board meetings live as they happen in real time. Currently, our board meeting videos have a similar professional look and feel as the live streaming videos that you may have seen from Pasco's City Council meetings. Our viewers have come to expect a level of quality and professionalism in our board meeting videos, and to maintain that level of quality, the district would need to invest in some new equipment if we were to begin live streaming our board meetings over the internet. That list of new equipment would include 2 to 3 remote-controlled cameras that would be mounted from the ceiling here in the boardroom, a studio switchboard, a camera control system, ceiling mounts for those cameras, video cables, and a desktop computer equipped with the software necessary to operate the switcher and the remote control cameras, as well as uploading the live stream to the internet. The estimated cost for all of that necessary equipment is roughly about $18,000. There is a suggested motion in your board packet tonight, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ettinger. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ettinger before we ask for a motion? Okay, so do we have a motion? Or
I'd like some discussion.
so let's get a motion first, and then we'll have discussion.
Okay, Mr. President, I move to approve implementing live streaming of board meetings, including purchasing equipment totaling approximately $18,000.
Do we have a second? Anybody want to second it? So I'll second it. I think that's within my legal authority there. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve implementing live streaming of board meetings, including purchasing equipment totaling approximately $18,000. So any discussion on this topic?
Yes, I would like the discussion. I'm not in favor of this. I think that we have better use of $20,000 than doing live streaming of this. I don't think that we have enough volume of people looking at even of the process that we do now. I think the live streaming that they're doing of the graduation is wonderful. But as a, for instance, the live streaming that's done of the city council meetings, for instance. I mean, I was part of the donut hole, and I never watched one live stream of the city council. I've been to a couple of city council meetings, but I've never watched the live streaming. I think that if people are interested in what's going on, that I think that by seeing it the next day or the following day, they can watch whatever and it's all exactly what's going on. So, I mean, they see exactly what we're seeing, what's been being presented. And I think that we can, with being under the budget constraints that we are, spending the $20,000 to have it live streamed, I don't think that we're in a position to do that. I think we can spend our money better elsewhere. If we have it out on our website, and so if someone has questions about something that's on our being presented on our board, that they can actually send questions to us, or they can send questions to Ms. Whitney, or to be presented at a board meeting. So I just don't feel that it's a necessary component for us at this time to spend $20,000 to have it live streamed.
Okay. Any other board members want to speak?
I still have some questions that I would like to get answered. I've done a little bit of research on this and what it entails and what we can do with it. I was gonna get that picture of the budget thing, and ask you to put it up. I totally forgot. But the budget picture of how we do business as a school district, and it is all about student achievement, where our money goes, and how it's going to increase how it's going to help our kids, whether directly or indirectly. And looking at it through that lens, I haven't seen how this is really going to help our kids. I think we have, how many on average do we have that even look at these things?
Typically, our board meetings get about 100, an average of about 100 viewers. Some are less than that. We have had a few that have been over 200 viewers, but there's probably about a half dozen of those meetings. The overwhelming average is around 75 to 110 viewers.
Okay. So I remember when you told us last week or 2 weeks ago that when they have live streaming of graduation, that to me would be way more interesting to watch as a family member if I missed it than watching us would ever be. And it's less than 10% watch it live stream. Is that correct?
Right. When we live streamed our graduations, during the graduation ceremonies, where you averaged, of the people watching at that time, the number averaged between about 100 and 150 was our peak. And that was for both the Pasco High and the Chiawanna High graduations. The average number of viewers watching it as it was happening was between 100 and 150.
Okay, so I think it was less than, of the total watches afterward and everything.
True, right. The videos themselves had like 5,000 to 6,000 views, if not more. I believe the Pasco High graduation had more than 10,000 views.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean 10,000 people will watch the entire thing, but they at least watched a portion of it.
Right. Okay, so you take 150 of 5,000, and that's a tiny percentage. I really think we might get 4 or 5 people watching this, and 4 of them, or 3 of them might very well be the people who's, the grandparents of the kindergartners who are talking. So I really want a better reason than to do this for those 6 people who want to hear this. I also asked about how, because it seems one of the benefits that I felt was it makes it, your time is less, you have to spend less time doing this. And it saves you about a day of time. And so I wanted to kind of see how much that was. So I estimated your salary. Sorry, I don't know what it is. But I got about a 35-year payback on if we did that 18,000 and took that, provided that you can do something else. It was about a 35-year payback. So I'm not opposed to it, but right now I need a better reason of how this is going to help our students than, you know, that it's going to help 6 people be able to watch it live rather than 3 days later, and what benefit that's going to do. Right now, we are innovative. No other school district is even posting these. We're posting our study sessions. We have so much information out there. You know, yeah, there might be somebody who really wants to be here that can't be here once in a while, but I'm not sure it's worth $18,000.
So I guess my thought process was this: is $18,000 is I won't say it's insignificant, but it's not a significant number for the budget that we have for this district. But when I look at it, I say, how could this help our students? I could say it could help our students by getting community involvement. Anytime we have community involvement, it can help our students. But also looking at the discussion we had at the last meeting, talking about what we thought how much we would increase by having live streaming versus not, and we get our videos up. Sometimes it's 2 days later. I don't believe that we would have a lot more viewership. I don't believe that people who watch the video 2 days later, there would be more people watching it if it was live. And when I think back to what we looked at WASDA, it was getting your community involved by live streaming events where they could comment on it and where you could have interaction. And that's not what we're talking about here. We haven't talked as a board about having interaction where we're going to be typing responses back to the people at home on their couches. Now, if someday we decided to go that direction, and I don't think we want to go that direction, there would be major distractions there, then I could see that live streaming would have benefits because of that interaction that you get with people at home. But until people want to go that direction, and again, I'm not advocating for that at all, I don't see that spending this money would get more community involvement and help our kids. Also, as Ms. Phillips said, we are innovative. We are showing it. This video is available to everybody. We have childcare. So I know that some people will say, well, I can't come because I have children. Well, we have childcare here, so you can come and take advantage of the childcare. And some people will say I'm at work, or, you know, I want to watch it at work or something like that. I don't think that there's a high number of people whose employers would be happy with that anyway. So that's my thought process there. And again, until we want to use live streaming for actually communicating live with our people watching it, I guess I don't support this.
I don't mean to be a distraction to the discussion, but I also wanted to point out another way that we've been innovative is we have 2 of our sign language interpreters that are present and will continue to be present for our board meetings in case we have some of our faculty and or community who would like that level of interpretation services. And we've also always had Spanish interpretation services available. So I just wanted to point out another innovative practice given the opportunity with your comments, Mr. Learman.
I just had a question for Ms. Phillips. You referenced like the 6 people would be better than I was just curious how you came up with the 6 people that would watch it, or to use that number.
I simply based it on the percentages of the people who actually live streamed graduation versus the people who actually watched graduation with this. I mean, it's not a great and accurate comparison. If you want to know the truth, I feel like there'd be more people watching, a bigger percentage watching graduation than this. I mean, I think there might be times when, you know, even if we have 6 or 7 people do it, you know, 5 of them probably would have done it later anyway. So, you know, and I appreciate the fact that we're doing this. I think some of these things were some of your ideas. So I think it's great that we're going in this direction. But I think we have to draw a line when I think we're doing a great thing for our community, a great thing for our kids. Some of these issues really apply to a lot of people, and we're here to represent the people. But I don't feel like this is really going to give them more representation, not to any kind of significant level. So that's my concern is because of the way we do business, we're doing this for the kids, and I can't justify this $18,000 going here versus somewhere else it might need to go.
So I have a question for the board members. So this presentation was actually given 2 years ago, nearly 2 years ago it wasn't last year. So it was 2 years ago. And the presenter's name was Jeff. I don't remember his last name, but he was kind of the keynote speaker of all of the WASDA. UTEC? Yeah. Does that sound right, Mr. Chris? Jeff UTEC?
So it's a familiar name. Could
yeah.
be.
So it was, I know his first name was Jeff. So he, and he's on the school board in Western Washington District who started live streaming 2 years ago. And does anyone remember what their viewership was of their live streaming? Anyone? Okay, so it was in the hundreds. And it varies. Obviously this varies, right? Maybe tonight there's not much going on, but when we have board meetings where they're about boundaries, when they're about bonds, where they're about important issues that people want to be aware of, those meetings will have hundreds of viewers. And I certainly think that nearly every meeting will have more than 6. So basing it on what was presented to us 2 years ago as an innovative, exciting thing to do and how successful they had been, I also remember that the interaction, my recollection was not that they were actually asking questions and communicating with the board, but that, as in most live streams, the commenters communicate with each other. You can comment, someone else comments, just like kind of a Facebook type thing where you would comment with other commenters, but not actually be able to start having this dialogue with the board through the live streaming. A couple other points I'd like to clarify. Someone said no other school district posts these. That's not true. There are multiple school districts in our state that post their school board meetings. I just looked up recently just to confirm that, and I found there are other districts that do this.
I think I was talking locally. I mean,
Okay, you didn't-
Richland, Kennewick, none of them.
Okay, that's a good, important clarification. So you just said no other school district posts these. So between the 3 local ones, I think you're correct that we're the only ones that, out of the 3. Sure. So I also want to clarify the cost. It was said that $18,000 to live stream, and that's not really correct either. The $18,000 is to purchase new equipment, which would also benefit, like Mr. Ettinger taught us or explained to us 2 weeks ago. It would improve the quality of our broadcast. It will lessen the time that our marketing department has to devote to putting those up. And then also to clarify, it was said that posted the next day. These are rarely posted the next day. Usually it's 2 to 3 days. So I just want to make sure that some of these things are not stated as fact. They're not, that were inaccurate. I don't know if you have an average 2.2 days based on the hour of the day, but they're rarely the next day.
We try really hard to get at least one meeting up the next day.
One meeting,
Either the
one
study
of the study
session or
sessions.
the board meeting up
But
the next day.
both aren't.
Usually we have both up by the second day.
By the second day, yeah. So, I actually think that more people than we think. So I don't want to get too personal here and ask what our average age is, but we're not the demographic we're looking at, honestly. I won't guess your ages. I'm 39, and we're talking about, we're trying to involve people that are younger and getting them involved. And so if you look at things like Facebook Live and things, it's not us. It's not, again, I don't want to get personal about this, but we're not the demographic we're looking for. So I think the posting of the videos has been a huge success. I mean, some of those videos have been viewed many hundreds of times. And again, when there's an important issue that people want to be aware of, they're watched. I have watched a live stream, and I did it with the city council debate there. It was extremely helpful. I was home. It was 9 o'clock at night. Neither my wife or I could leave. It was bedtime, so childcare didn't help. It was the perfect scenario for our family, young children. We turned it on and watched the debate. It was extremely helpful to be involved in the city, and that's how I came to know all the city council, everyone who was running for city council. And so again, we have to look at this from a broad community perspective. Is another thing that was mentioned as far as helping students. I absolutely agree. How is this going to help students? I think it's going to help students in a number of ways. One, to show them that we support innovation, that we're not afraid to think outside the box, to do something that not everyone's doing, that we're going to stick our necks out there a little bit to be brave, and even though we may not like having the live stream in our discussion, that we're going to do something innovative. Number 2, being able to incorporate more families, even if just 10 people watch this that wouldn't otherwise watch it. Those families are now going to be more involved and aware in their child's education. They're going to be more involved in their school. They're going to be aware of what's going on in the district. They could be more involved in levies and bonds. And even if we gather just a handful of those people, it's well worth the money in my mind, and it will help student achievement. Now, that's hard to measure, just like most things. It's hard to measure what percentage of the increase in reading was due to this or due to that program. That just with anything, it's hard to estimate that. But I think it will affect student achievement. And as was mentioned, you estimated the 35-year payback. strictly for the cost. I don't know how accurate that is. I think it would be much less if we look at all these other factors when you start estimating value of something. And again, it's not just money to live stream. This is upgrading equipment, keeping things, making this high quality. And again, it will decrease the time of our public affairs department, which would be beneficial as well. So for all of those reasons, I'm very supportive of this. I think it's a great, innovative thing. If we had, this one doesn't have it, but one of our, can you close that? I think on the laptop, or maybe Mark could do that. If one of our okay, it's not on there, but Pasco, there's a Pride, it's I don't have it, innovation is one of the three. Is it diversity, achievement, innovation, something like that? Ms. Whitney, do you know, we have a logo that's on the website that, I want to say innovation, diversity, achievement, I don't know.
Academics, innovation, or diversity.
Yeah, academics, diversity, and innovation. So that we post and it shows that we're innovative, and there you go, right there. Thank you. Perfect. So academics, diversity, innovation. So again, as Mr. Lehrman said, I think in the $250+ million budget that we have, something like this, it's going to better disseminate and increase the quality and involvement of the community in our board meetings is well worth the money.
Okay, any other comments? So let me just tell you where I stand on this. In a $250 million plus budget, $18,000 is not a lot. I think it would improve the quality of our presentation. I think anything we can do to let people know what we're doing is valuable. Is it worth $18,000? I don't know. Is this the time to do this? I don't know. I personally think that our live viewership would be less than 6. I wouldn't be surprised if some nights it's 0. Does that mean we shouldn't do this? No, I wouldn't spend the $18,000 for live viewing, but I think the quality of the product that we would get, that people would be watching, would be improved by this. One of the things we talked about, not that we need better camera shots of us, but if one of us is speaking, it's better to have the camera where people can see us. If somebody's at the podium, they can see the podium. If we're showing slides, they can see the slides. Those things are all benefits to the production of this. Again, the trade-off, is it worth $18,000 to do that? I think we all know that within the next year, our budget is going to go down. So I think these are all good points, good discussion, and I think, we want people to be involved. We want people to know what we're doing. But for me, the bigger question is this the right time? But I'm willing to support it. So, any other discussion? If not, it's time to vote. So could we get a roll call vote, please? Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
All right, so motion carries. It looks like we will be spending approximately $18,000 to, I'm going to put improve the quality of our video and live stream, at least as long as it's effective. So thank you, Mr. Ettinger.
So as we move into reports, I just wanted to call the board's attention that you approved a consent agenda item today that has our newest employee to the team. Mr. Kevin Hebden is our newest employee to the team. He is now our fiscal service leadership. So I wanted to introduce Kevin to you and to the rest of the audience, that we're excited to have him as part of the team. Mr. Sullivan is also here. He is providing some help and support during the transition. So welcome. We have K2. It's Kevin squared, so we didn't have to learn a new name, just a new face.
See, so if we had our video equipment set up here, Mr. Ettinger could just push a button. We'd get both of you in the shot.
Yeah, and then we would fade to black. Yeah, no, it'd be great. Yeah. So welcome to Kevin.
Now we're just getting the back of your head, Kevin. Yeah, so all right, I believe, so we have a new group of students here, and we're all learning. So we went through that last portion. And I didn't even ask you guys if you had any input on our live streaming. Is there anything that you want to say about that? Don't feel pressured.
Yes, feel pressure.
And you don't have to agree or disagree with us. I came here very up and down, and I'm very much in the middle, and I needed to be persuaded one way or the other. So we don't care if your opinion's like ours or not, because we value your opinion for what you bring. So if you have anything to say.
I honestly thought it was an interesting idea, like you said a little bit earlier, even if we have 0 views or, that could be only in the beginning. And since it's mostly an internet thing and, I don't want to offend the older generation, it could truly benefit, our demographic, the high schoolers that really want to get into or start to know about this kind of, student, board meetings. Even before I got here, I had no clue what this was, And so I think that this could open people's minds to, something new. And like you said again, even if we don't get so many views, either way, they will still be published. People will be able to watch them later on, just like the videos that we post on now. They'd just be posted automatically and just fully rendered and edited. So it's an interesting idea.
Okay. Anybody don't? Maybe you should feel pressure. Go ahead.
Me personally, I feel like, to me, I don't think it would make sense. I mean, well, not that it wouldn't make sense, but to me personally, I don't really see the, I don't want to say benefit, but I don't think it's worth $18,000 if we're not going to get a lot of views. I mean, I do see where both sides were coming from about, this is getting us involved and it's showing the community, and you guys were saying how community growth can lead to helping us, the students. But me personally, I don't think it's worth $18,000. I think that $18,000 can go towards something else that we could need here in the schools.
Thank you. Okay. Well,
I was going to say something real quick. I know that you said that the demographic is for younger generations and things, but I also think we need to keep in mind that a lot of the people, we're students and we have very busy schedules and things, and a lot of us would, we have the option to watch the live stream, but most of us would be more concerned with, I have something due coming up, or I have a sports event or something. So I think most students would be interested in that when they have such a busy schedule and things.
So thank you, students. Thanks for your input.
Mr. President, can I just make one comment? And I just want to thank the board and the district staff for preparing the information. And I know this is a little uncomfortable to do, but it's exciting. And I just want to emphasize that I would not judge the success solely based on views. I know that we talked a lot about that, but again, that was one thing Mr. Christensen mentioned, that he's not even that concerned. It's more there's a lot of other benefits that we're going to get. The quality is going to be a lot better. What people can see, even if they watch it later, though, they able to actually see who's talking, who we're pointing out, who is Mr. Hebden, and when people are talking, it's just the quality is going to be better. It'll be available sooner, so more people will actually be able to watch the videos closer to when it happened. And so there's a lot of other benefits to just how many people were live streaming. I think we'll rarely be at 0, because as was mentioned, the students that participate in the flag salute, I guarantee they'll have family members that will watch it. The proud grandmas that are 80, I mean, they may be pulling it up somewhere in the world to watch. So it's exciting, and just thank you.
Okay. Excuse me.
So it's my honor to also introduce, Jenny is new to her role as Executive Director supervising high schools. So Dr. Rodriguez is in front of the board actually tonight for 2 separate reports. One's a report and one's an extended study. She will be tackling the enrollment report first, and then she has prepared information as requested by the board on the small innovative high school concept and parent partnership. So we appreciate Mrs. Rodriguez for her first opportunity to present to the board to have a double header. So Thank you so much, Dr. Rodriguez.
I'm a doctor, I can handle it. So, Superintendent Whitney, Board President Christensen, honor members of the board, thank you for inviting me to share this information with you this evening. We're going to jump into the 2018 enrollment report, and many of you will be familiar with this report because we do this annually for you. So just a reminder of when we do the official count date, and this is what helps determine, right, our school apportionment and our funding for many things for the year. So the first count date of the school year is always done on the 4th school day of September, and every other month it happens on the first school day of that month. But in September, thankfully, they give us a couple extra days to make sure everybody is in the door before we're officially counting them. The official count date this year was last Friday, September 7th, which was actually our 8th day of school. It does take a few days though, because as you know, our kindergartners have some assessments the first couple days, they're not in class. We do orientation days on the first day for our 7th graders and our 9th graders, so it does take a few days to really get those sorted out. So you can see here what that first count date looked like by grade level at the elementary. And we are the proud, right, school district of 10,153 elementary schools this year. I went ahead and included for you the last 2 years so you can see what that trend looks like at each grade level. And then this is also broken out for you by elementary school, so you can see where some schools have increased their numbers since last year, where a few others have decreased their numbers. So some are holding very steady, like my Angelo right at the top there, almost the identical enrollment count from last year. But then you can see at Captain Gray, we added almost 30 kids, which is why we've added another kindergarten section there this year. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Lots of elementary schools. So here is the rest of them. We've also added to this our IPAL enrollment, so we continue to grow that program. The reason you have two numbers there, that 4/4, that's just to let you know 4 students are enrolled in online school exclusively through IPAL, and we have 4 students that are doing a blended program where they're participating in some IPAL coursework, but also participating in some coursework on a school campus. McClintock is the other one I just would like to point out. Significant increases there this year.
Is that because of the dual language, they're adding a new section every year?
It's a section, but one section is not 100 and almost 20 children.
That's a lot of kids.
A lot of kids. So they really saw growth in almost every single grade level at McClintock this year. And then moving on to our secondary counts. So you can see here our 7th grade through 12th grade numbers, again, over the last 3 years, continuing to grow. We actually saw the greatest growth percentage at our middle schools this year of the 3 levels, followed by the high schools and then actually the elementary schools. And again, that's broken out for you by school. Again, for the IPAL counts, I've just designated them the same way. So at middle school, we have 8 students that are doing online program only. We have 4 that are doing a blended. At the high school level for IPAL, all of the kids that are doing that program currently are doing some type of a blend. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're on the high school campus. They could be participating in Running Start. They might be doing something through TriTech. So we have students that are kind of matching up programs to meet their needs. And then here's the comparison for you by elementary, middle, and high school level. And altogether, 18,359 kids we get to be proud of this year. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to address them.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Any questions?
I had a question on the secondary level slide. So if we look at 9th through 11th grade for the last 3 years, it's pretty much a wash. I don't know, I was just doing it in my head. It's within a couple students, 2 students. And the 12th grade has increased by 130 students. What is that saying that if we really look at it, are we really at a wash at the high school level? Are those 130 students kind of the anomaly in 12th grade? Does that have to do with students returning for their 13th year or something like that? Have we looked at that? Because again, when I look at 9th through 11th grade, subtract all the numbers together, they're within 2 years last year and this year, no growth. And at the 12th grade level, 130 students. So just curious if there's a way to look into that and say, okay, yeah, actually we had no growth at high school, and that extra 130 students is are you able to tell us how many students return for their 13th or 14th
I
year?
can certainly get that information for
Okay.
you.
I'd
I
be-
can also tell you, though, that we did add students. Both of our high schools experienced large numbers of folks bringing in their enrollment paperwork here at the end of August. We've also had, obviously students that have moved into the area as well, but you're right, some of those would account for students who are completing a 5th year.
My second question, it's not really relevant, just out of curiosity. Did we happen to have our 4th day on the 7th every year, or did we just put this in? I'm just curious, coincidence or not?
Well, I don't know. I guess with Labor Day, it tends to be a very similar date, but last year it was on the 7th day of the school year, and this year it was on the 8th school day of the school year, so it's not always the exact same, but always the 4th day of September.
One thing about the 5th years, though, in the 12th grade is we're going to have 5th years in the 12th grade every single year. So there might be an increase there this year and a similar one next year, but it still doesn't account for the fact that we have, how much is that? Close to 300 more students at the high school level, because we are comparing apples to apples. There's 5th year students.
We don't though, because that's including 7th and 8th. So like if you look at 9th grade, there's 50 less students this year.
Right.
And if you look at 11th grade, there's 35 students less, so that's a total of 85 less. Then add 10th grade in there, there's 87 more. So there's pretty much a wash between 9th and 11th grade. If you look at that, so there's maybe 100 and, whatever that, 130 extra students, 135 more students in the high school level.
If you look
The rest
at
are in middle.
the September 17th number, so if we looked at, for example, the 8th grade from last year at 1294, and now as 9th graders, they're 1308, that's the increase, because those are the same group of kids, the cohort that's going through, so they are, pretty consistent. We can see there's not a huge difference there between those numbers, and we can see like some sophomores have moved or transferred and those kinds of things as well.
So most of the growth, like we're saying, is the 130 to 40 kids in 12th grade. Are they really new students, or are they returning students, is the question.
Combination.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
Yeah, Dr. Rodriguez, could you go to the elementary enrollment, the one that has Markham, McClintock? Yes. So I am extremely concerned about McClintock's enrollment because Mr. Morales and his staff have done an amazing job, and that increase worries me, and that's a smaller school, and I wonder how they're going to maintain their sanity, because that school is just an L shape, and it's not as big as many of our other schools, and that is now our largest elementary school except for Maya, and it's probably within the standard, 889 to 881. So I'm concerned about that very much.
Yeah, I'm wondering where they're putting them. This is,
So one of the pieces they had to do is the art teacher is now in a cart. They had to convert the art classroom to another grade level classroom to make this space. They also had some students that had to be overloaded to other buildings. That occurred before the start of the school year, so folks who were new registrants in some of the grade levels had to do that as well.
So having had that happen to my children when we moved, actually just had one, my oldest child that started when we moved here, that was not enjoyable. He felt like a visitor at the school he was moved to for a year, felt out of place, and then came back to his school that was our boundary school. So anyways, that concerns me a great deal, and I hope we're looking at that and can address that somehow. Can you go to the...
Before we leave this, just question on this. How many portables are there at McClintock? That was one number that jumped out at me too. I know that's not a big school, and is there two?
Jaime is right there.
I don't want to put Jaime on the
He says they
spot,
have
but-
two. I know he would.
So 4 portable classrooms. Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible to me that we have that, and I know we have other elementary schools that have lots of portables, and that one's trying to be a big school with no room.
Yeah, and it was originally built for K through 3, so everything's smaller. I'm sorry, Jaime. We're working on it. We have some schools coming up, but it sounds like it's going to be a rough year, and I'm really sorry for your art teacher because that is one really cool art room that they had to give up.
So I'm just going to say the obvious, that we need to look at the dual language there at that school. I know that's a concern of many people, and so we need to look at that. Can you go to the elementary state count day, just the summary of K through 6? Yeah. So if we look at 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, so they each have about 1,500. So we've talked in the past, we're going to open a 4th middle school and rebuild Stevens. So we're going to have 4 middle schools in a couple of years. And if 6th grade has moved back, there's our 6th, 7th, 8th right there. That's 4,500 kids. So that is 1,100 to 1,200 kids at each of those schools. With 6th grade moved back. Like I said last year, I'm not in favor of that. I think we need 5 middle schools before we move 6th grade back. Some have said, well, that was what the community builders or whatever said that we should do. And I don't want to say I don't care, but frankly, we need to be nimble. And so that was based on projections that showed that we weren't going to grow. And we clearly have grown dramatically. And if you look in our city, there's developments everywhere. And so I guarantee you it's going to be more than 4,500. So I'm just putting that out there right now. We don't have to decide today, obviously, but I would absolutely not be in favor of that if I were to be voting on that, moving 6th grade back and having 1,100 to 1,200 students at our 4 middle schools. I think that's a tragedy. It's horrible for that age of kids. Even with just 7th and 8th grade, we're talking about 700 to 800 at all 4 middle schools, even without much growth, just based on those numbers that are in 5th and 6th grade right there. So anyways, these I just want to emphasize we have to be nimble, and even something that was on a facilities plan 1 year ago, when the numbers, the projections are nowhere near what was projected, we have to be able to adapt, and that's our responsibility as a board.
I think these numbers really show that at least this year we didn't really grow. And again, I already brought up the thing, but if you always go down from the right down and left one spot, you can see a cohort or a class. And in almost all of these scenarios, the growth is in the noise. It's up and down, and at the end, you can see it in the final number for elementary school also. 42 students different, which you could call that growth, but it can be in the noise.
It's, I think, negligible at the elementary level, although we are seeing some schools really getting pushed to the brink, and others are finally being able to breathe, perhaps. When we look at the secondary, the buildings and those numbers, there was more growth at the middle school level, significant growth at the middle school level, and some growth at the high school, but also not as much as the middle school.
Can you go to the last slide, the student count comparison? Yeah, no, keep going to the final, the combined.
Yep.
Okay, so we just have to be clear when we're talking about growth. If you're saying that we didn't grow at the elementary level, I would agree with that. Well, we did grow 40 students, but maybe that's not that much, but we grew by over 300 students. So, and our projections had showed very little growth, even, I think honestly it was like 50 or 100, just off the top of my head, the numbers that we were given last year based on the best projections we could, that we were given, and we grew by 3 times that much. So again, I'll keep saying, and it's not going to be low growth like people keep saying, or based on projections. I mean, I guarantee you we'll be back here next year and we'll look at it, and the same thing's going to happen. Oh, we grew by 200 or 300 students, because I'm telling you, there are houses everywhere. Everywhere I drive in the city, there are housing developments going up. So yeah, it's going to be different grade to grade. Some grades people will move, and some more kids will leave, or some kids go to a different school district, or some kids homeschool. It's going to be varied grade to grade, but overall, it's going to continue to be just like that.
So I agree with Mr. Larriman. These numbers the growth is in 12th grade this year. Why it is, I don't know. Whether it's 13-year seniors or what it is, but all the other grades are fairly low growth. It's just that senior year. Now, that doesn't mean, there's a lot of houses going in, and if there's not students in them, that's a benefit for us in a way, but who knows? When if students do come into those houses, that could be a real challenge.
I mean, this is just eye-opening for me because when you think of growth, you look at all the houses going up, and I was going, we're going to have a ton of new students this year. Because there's been years where we've grown by 500, 600, 700 students and not had near the housing growth that we've had in this past year. So I think it's really hard to judge your student population growth by the structure, the residential structures that are going up. So just eye-opening for me to a point. And we got to be careful by looking at the number of houses going up and trying to correlate it to students.
Yeah,
I agree. I expected a lot more growth this year with, I mean, the housing by where I live has just skyrocketed. And so this was a little surprising to me.
Well, I can tell you one of the reasons is we have families that are taking their kids out of our schools and trying to contribute to decreasing the overcrowding. So, but we got to be accurate when we're talking. When we say that most of the growth was in the 12th grade, that's just not accurate. If you go back to 12th grade, can you look at that, please? We have to be careful with how we talk. That grew by 131 students. And if you go back to the total, we grew by 300. And it wasn't even half the growth. So to say something like all the growth was in 12th grade is completely inaccurate. So again, we need to be really careful with how we talk. I mean, that's just a completely inaccurate statement.
So let me rephrase that.
Please.
The majority of the growth this year is in 12th grade.
Sure, I would agree
Nobody's
with
saying
that.
that the other grades didn't grow, but the majority of growth was in 12th grade. It's clear.
Yeah, no, but
of
you
our
didn't
300 students,
But that wasn't.
230 of them are 12th grade.
I know, but I just, when we make statements that all of the growth, we didn't say the majority, we just have to be careful because people pull out those statements and they take that as fact, and it's just not true. So we have to say, sure, the majority. Well, actually, I mean, it wasn't over 50%, but that grade grew more than any other grade. So.
Well, so put it in this,
Considerably more.
yes,
Yeah,
considerably.
well, I agree, but we just,
1 out of 13 grades. So for 1 out of 13 grades, the high school grew
I agree.
over a third of that amount. That's huge compared to in one grade. And there were still fifth years in last year's high school. That's amazing to me. And maybe not typical of every year, we'll see, but that's significant.
Okay. Any other comment? So Dr. Rodriguez, looks like you're up again for our extended study discussions on small schools and parent partnership programs.
All right, so I'm very excited to chat with you about this evening. We were asked to put together some information on small school programs, what's available out there, what might that look like, and some possible projections for cost. So first, I wanted to just talk you through some different small high school models. When we talk about a small high school, there's really not just a one-size-fits-all. There's a lot of different models that are employed locally across our state and across our country. So one that is popular is magnet schools. That's typically a school that has a particular emphasis or focus. So for example, a STEM-focused school. So while we don't usually refer to Delta High School as a magnet school, it operates in much the same way as a magnet program would. Performing arts high schools are also found across our country. So in our own state, Tacoma School Districts has something called SOTA, or School of the Arts, which is a very popular program in their community. And then health sciences is really a piece that's coming on as people are looking at the economic forecasts and recognizing that there's a huge industry and growth of jobs in that particular market. And so preparing students specifically for health science careers. And in Vancouver School District, also in our state, we have Gila High School, which is a pretty cool health science program that's actually attached to a working hospital. So those are some ideas around magnet schools. We also have a lot of alternative programs that typically look smaller in size than comprehensive programs. Those could be project-based. So Delta is one model of a project-based school because much of the work that students do are tied to projects that they're working on. At our neighboring school district in Kennewick, they have a very different looking project-based school with their Phoenix High School program. Which is quite a different take. So project-based can look a lot of different ways. An online academy, which we actually already have as part of our school district through our IPAL program. A personally personalized competency-based program. This tends to be extremely individualized for students. In some ways, that is a bit like the Phoenix program in Kennewick. It does allow for strong student buy-in through collaboration of determining how to meet the learning objectives. New Horizons High School is also piloting pieces of this, and this year they're working with the Marzano group to really look at how that might work for the students that are served there. We also see something with school within a school model. So this would not be a separate freestanding structure or separate facility, but really it's a school that's housed within a larger comprehensive high school. So one program in that way is career academies. So if we think about, for example, the STEM program at Chihuahua High School, that really could be considered a career academy program where students are grouped together for a certain part or all of their day and travel through a program that way. We also have something that we're looking at right now, and so Pasco Teacher Academy, I just liked the acronym of PTA, so I put that up there. But we actually have a small grant that we're working at Pasco High School around a bilingual education teacher prep program. So that really could be developed into a wider program as well. And then P-TECH is a model that's also done either individually or as a school within a school program, and it's a 9 through 14 academy, so students earn their high school diploma and an associate's degree at the conclusion of the program. It's also typically tied to a high needs career pathway with support and partnership from local industry partners. Technical programs, so when we think about things like the CTE Skills Center, so TriTech is a model that is currently run by Kennewick School District, but our Pasco students have access and utilize that program. We're also currently working on some programs and partnerships again with New Horizons with our career and technical education program with the director, Deb Bowen. Oh, excuse me, not Deb Bowen, Deb Thurston. And she's looking at some certification courses that could be done right on that campus for students, so kind of tying that together. And then a homeschool co-op is another model where there's a blend typically of homeschool and shared learning environment, typically staffed with an administrator, a counselor. It could employ teachers, but often utilizes parents and guardians to teach some or all of the courses. There's often online components that are added to that, and often students will exercise the right to use things like Running Start as well as part of that. And we do have some programs like that in our area. So Richland has a HomeLink program and Kennewick has the Mid-Columbia Partnership Program. So all of those are really fun to think about and dream about, but really what we have to be looking at is, are small schools actually better? Is that really going to get us what we want for our kids? So we looked at a lot of the research, and it's pretty split when we talk about school size and effectiveness. So there's quite a few studies that look at with high schools, sort of 600 to 900. There's more studies that say 1,000 to 1,300. There's other studies that say anything under 2,100 is good. So the research is kind of split on that, but in general, it kind of talks about this sweet spot, and I referred to this earlier today as sort of the Goldilocks method. Sometimes when a high school is really small, we find that we can't have as many course offerings for students, and supporting the extracurriculars, the breadth of that program for students is also really challenging. And then on the flip side, when a high school is really big, then that can be problematic in terms of students getting to participate in those kinds of things. Also can lead to some apathy on the part of students and staff, which can lead to a host of other challenges. So the other piece that we have to look at is that smaller size isn't a silver bullet. There are many very successful small high school programs, but typically they don't do well because they're small. They do well because they're doing a lot of other things right. Gates, as you know, has had quite the foray into helping us solve our educational problems in America. And one of the big studies that they worked on was a small schools research study. And after a multi-year study, really what they determined was that wasn't what fixed things. That wasn't what worked for kids. So you could take kids and put them in a smaller building with fewer staff, but if you don't really change the instructional practices, if you don't change the supports that we provide for kids, it doesn't actually improve academic outcomes for students. So really what we find when we look at the research is the practices within the school, that's what really makes the difference for kids. So career pathways, not a ton of research out on that model, and that would be like a school within a school model, but it tends to look like a promising practice at this point. AVID has significant research behind it as a really systemic program that can help support a district really almost all the way through K-12. And then multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS, as you'll hear it referred to, really is just the new lingo of RTI, or response to intervention. And really what it is, it's tied to the PLC model, which I know you guys have heard about before, but it's really looking not just at that tier 1 core instruction, but the tier 2 and tier 3 small group and individual instruction that some students really need to have, both for academics and for behavior. I know you guys have probably heard previously about John Hattie's research. So he is the one who kind of did the huge meta-analysis of all the research studies in education and looked at what's really effective for kids. We know that teacher quality is a really important one. School leadership is an important one. They updated that research in 2016, and when they did that, they found 6 super factors, things that really made a huge impact for kids. And MTSS is one of those 6 factors. So it is a piece that has been shown to be very promising for students. And then learning supports really comes from the research out of Adelman and Taylor. And that's focused on building a comprehensive system to promote the healthy development and support our kids as they struggle with a variety of things that get in the way of them being academically successful. So this is about really addressing their life circumstances that are getting in the way. So making sure kids get to eat, making sure they have health care, including mental health care. Those kinds of things can really impact students' ability to be successful. So community-based decision-making. As you guys know, we have a community builders group that was established in the 16-17 school year. So that group is continuing to meet and work hard. Their purpose is to contribute to the development of a long-term facilities management plan for our school district. And that plan's really being developed based on community interest and support. Recommendations for that final plan will be based on broad stakeholder input and feedback. They are reviewing and considering high school options as a part of that plan. When you think about the numbers that we just saw with the enrollment, we have over 5,000 high schoolers right now, split between 2 buildings, so that's certainly a concern that they are taking a look at. And the pieces that they're having conversation around high schools, including the potential for a small high school option, are looking at what would the needs that would be addressed with any high school program that we might put into that plan. What's that program model going to look like? What would be the cost? What would be the size? And where would we put it in Pasco? So if we wanted to go forward based on that community builders group's recommendation, I wanted to share with you and just paint for you a little bit of the fiscal picture and what that might look like for some of the models that we talked about tonight. So Delta High School is the closest thing that we can kind of look at within our own district in terms of a small high school model. So if we wanted to build another high school similar to Delta in size and in services, that facility opened in 2013, has just over 44,000 square feet, and it costs us just over $15 million to get it opened. The cost per square foot is $342, or was at the time. Right now, current average cost of square foot for school construction is $528. So the projected cost for a replica building, which wouldn't include planning for that program, which we typically do, but we did not do with Delta because the program already existed, would be over $23 million. So the inflation with construction costs is a significant barrier for whatever we might want to do. And I know that you guys are going to be talking about that with Randy Nunemaker as the new Executive Director of Capital Projects at an upcoming study session.
And Delta High School doesn't have a gym or any kind of facilities for those kind,
No athletics, no gymnasium, limited parking.
No gymnasium, no athletics, very limited parking. So
and really not, if we talk about like magnet models like Gila High, the labs there are nice. They are quality science labs, but they're not like crazy tricked out science labs, right? Which we might want depending on what the program of study was. So significant expense. So a couple others that we talked about, Performing Arts Academy. For all of these, you'd have typical bond project costs. So you have an idea with the size with Delta about what our dollars could buy. But in addition with the Performing Arts Academy, we would have to think about special additional costs for a nice auditorium, music rooms, art spaces, the pieces that you would need to really fulfill that program of study for students. With a health science academy, same thing, bond project costs, but additional costs typically associated with maybe extra lab spaces, special materials, equipment that tends to cost a lot more than what we would want to pay for it. All fantastic, but an expensive proposition. With alternative programs, with a project-based school, again, bond project costs, additional costs for project-based materials, and that could really range. There could also include costs for off-site tours and activities. Often with project-based learning, there is a kind of a get outside the school component that goes along with that. Online program, we have an existing program via iPal, and we have a space where that is already located. It could be expanded. We could serve more students at the existing site and satellite programs. In fact, we are working on a partnership to have some satellite campuses in both Central and East Pasco. So Deb has been working on that with CTE and also with iPal to make that possible for kids. So students could be served in multiple locations, not just at the existing site at McLaughlin. We could utilize our basic education funding to cover needed staff. So that really is a possibility of a cost neutral situation. If we recruited more students to that program and then staffed, that could look really cool for kids. And then personalized competency-based program, again, new program startup or adding the option within an existing program. It does typically require more flexibility with calendar scheduling and even staffing. And as I mentioned before, New Horizons is piloting some of those pieces, so I expect we will learn a lot about that over the course of the next couple of years. Schools within a school, the big savings there is that we don't have the traditional bond costs, and that is significant, especially when we consider the inflation with construction costs. So career academies really could utilize existing buildings and repurpose staff from those existing programs to the career academy. There would be some startup costs for planning, the curriculum program development, and potentially some startup purchases. And there could be possible expenses tied to specific career interest. For example, if we were going to run an engineering academy, there are trade computer-based programs that kids would have to learn, right? So we have to pay for those things where we might not typically buy those. The P-TECH model that I mentioned, I already shared some of this information with you, but again, this can be done within an existing school, within the framework that's already there, with kids that already attend at that particular campus. Again, there would be some startup costs similar to career academies. There is a heavy industry partnership component of the P-TECH model, and so we would need to think about having a community engagement manager position attached to that program. That is a position that Delta High School has had for several years, and that is really who does the lift of making those connections with the industry partners. And then a homeschool cooperative. If it was going to be in its own separate facility, then there would be bond project costs associated with that, potentially startup costs for planning, curriculum program development, maybe some startup purchases. There would likely be new or additional staffing costs, but this would be something that we could explore. How might that be an addition to the existing IPAL program? So how might we think about phasing something like that in? And the homeschool cooperatives that are in our region, they all started small. They didn't start with a beautiful new building. They started in borrowed space and kind of cobbled together, and they grew the programs to where they are today. So I included this graphic for you. I like this one. We have lots of opportunities. I shared with you multiple kinds of models. What's nice about this picture, I think, though, is when we think about going down the pathway of one opportunity, it means not going in another direction, right? So our time and our money are finite, so we have to really be intentional and thoughtful about what's the opportunity that we might want to capitalize on next. And with that, I would open it up for questions and discussion.
So thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, for your presentation. Is there questions or discussion by the board? As you know, this is our, I think we're calling this our extended study session. We've had quite a bit of discussion on other things already tonight, but this is one where we get to dig in a little bit more and do some exploring here. So with that, I'll open it up for board comments or questions.
I just want to thank you for the presentation. There was a lot of information and a lot of different options for us to look at. So I just want to thank you for that.
On your fourth slide, it says our small school's better. I know we as a board and the community have talked about this a lot in the past couple of years about what's the ideal size, and you've went and did additional work there. And I was looking at that smaller sizes into Silver Bullet, and you said the word opportunity, and I think that's what's really important, regardless of the size of school, is ensuring that kids get equitable opportunities, or if you don't like the word equity, whatever, so that everyone has a fair shake at having the opportunities that they need and deserve. And what we're saying here is sometimes at a smaller school you have the programmatic issues with not being able to provide that opportunities, and sometimes at a larger school you have that issue. As a board and as a district and as a community, we're trying to provide as much building and as much space as we can so that people have those opportunities. But I know there's lots of excellent, not just teaching here. I mean, this says changes in teaching practices, but some of it is management of your building, and there's lots of excellent principals out here, past and present principals, and you guys know firsthand probably that just how you set up your building and how you operate that building, even if it's the same size from one year to the next, can give a better or worse experience for the consumer, for the parents. And there's a lot of power right there, just in the operations of our buildings. So I say thank you to principals and also to teachers who look at the problems that they run into with these challenges in the class sizes that they have, and think outside the box and come up with creative solutions to ensure that their students are still getting the opportunities that they deserve, whether it's at a small school or a large school. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, and I apologize. This just happened to fall this way in the agendas where there's multiple things tonight that I'm passionate about, and not necessarily things that I was passionate about a couple of years ago when I decided to run for a school director position. But over the last couple of years, this is certainly something that I've seen as an issue that we need to address. So, a couple comments, and so this is a good slide to stay on. Are small schools better? The follow-up question to that would be better for who? I think this is an issue that public education in our state and country needs to address. We are not flexible enough to meet the needs of every student. That has resulted in a focus on, and deservedly so, on special education students that they qualify for the least restrictive environment of education. But sometimes, focusing excessively on that, we have not focused on helping the other students meet their potential, and that is tragic as well. And so the question that always follows in my mind is, okay, better for who? And the idea of an ideal school size, well, again, ideal if we were designing a community from scratch, or ideal for what we can make do in Pasco right now. The construction costs worry me a great deal, right? Because in Pasco, we are so far behind on building, and now look at those costs. And so we are going to pay dearly for being so far behind on buildings, because now when we try to build more schools, it's going to cost a fortune. I think there are ways to get creative about this, and I'd like to frame this more in the as we discuss this, and in terms of equity, like Mr. Lehrman mentioned. And this is a word I haven't liked in the past, but I can see its benefit as we discuss equity. And back to what I was saying, that to me, equity is providing every student with what they need to reach their potential. That's equity. That's more or less, or whatever their potential is. It's not the same thing. It's not watching a baseball game. It may be doing something else. It's whatever that student's potential is. And I think we don't do well at that in general. In our school district, again, we're a huge district. We have a $250 million budget, 18,000 students. So we are able to provide more variety of resources to meet the needs of students than, say, in Prosser or Mattawa or one of these other. They don't have an option of going to a large school, right? I mean, that's simply not possible. But in our district, to not provide certain services that students would benefit from, I think is not right. One way that we're going to have to get creative as well in paying for these types of things are through other ways. So impact fees have been a big issue in our community. So every year we collect, the average, it's about $1 million. I don't know what the average is. It's been around $1 million. So, and we can save that up for, I believe, 6 or 7 years. So instead of buying portables, if we save that up and we could actually purchase facilities, actual permanent facilities, like some of these things. We moved New Horizons into a repurposed building. I want to say that was about $3.5 million. Is that about right? It was 3 to 4 million. Can anyone confirm, or Mr. 3.5 million? Yeah, that's what I thought. So beautiful facility. New Horizons is amazing. The kids do awesome. They are small. They have less course offerings. They have less extracurricular opportunities, and they love it because those students need a smaller environment, more personalized for a variety of reasons. I think if we talk about the homeschool partnership, like you mentioned, I think it'd be great to be creative, and it maybe with iPal and some of those excess portables that maybe we'll have at McLaughlin, that we can kind of cobble some of that together and get something going there to meet those needs. This is something that I've really changed my perspective on the last couple of years, because when I started, I think had the idea that there were certain things that were probably the best decisions, like, okay, well, you should go to the school where you're boundaried. And I kind of maybe was a little bit too critical and didn't understand as well as I do now that I think every parent is trying to do what's best for their child. And they are the ones that know their child, and so it's wrong of us to judge them. So in full disclosure, my wife and I decided after months and years of discussion and prayer and being involved in the school board, our kids are not in the school district this year. And that was difficult, but we just made that decision, and that's what we're doing this year. Are we going to do that again next year? I don't know. But so this year, 2 of my children that are of school age are being homeschooled, and 2 of them are going to a Christian school. Now, again, so you could judge me for that, and I could, but it's not my place to say, well, that's what you should do too. That was what we decided was best for our kids. So we contributed to help the overcrowding. We didn't move, so no one moved into our house with a large family. We have a large family, and none of them are in the school district this year. So some have been worried about criticism for that. Well, you're on the school board, and I actually, if anything, I am more passionate and committed, and this is why, because we have the resources to do that. I take my older kids to school, my wife homeschools our other 2 kids, and we're just making it work. But there are a lot of kids in our district, they do not have the resources to do that, and they need something like that. I just had a family today that their child, they happen to live in Kennewick, but he was bullied, and the mom, at great expense, she's taken him out of school and is trying to homeschool him at her own cost. It's just a horrible situation, and we have students like that in our district as well that I meet through work. I meet with families and students every single day. So this is an issue of equity to me, that we are not providing the services that students need, and we are a large enough district to do that. And so I think it's imperative on us to make sure that we're providing every student with the opportunities that they need to be successful and reach their potential, whatever that may be. And it's going to be the large high schools for some, but some do not. Whether it be anxiety or other issues, that they're not going to be successful in that environment, and we need to be able to provide them other avenues to reach their potential. So those are my thoughts. I apologize for the long-winded comments, but this is something I've been anxious to talk about for a while that keeps on coming up in my interactions with parents and students across our district.
This is our extended study/discussion session. Anybody else want to comment?
I really appreciate your presentation as well, because there are things there that I never even imagined. I went to Connell High School, and I loved so much about Connell High School, and there were very limited opportunities at Connell High School. I've also done research on it. I've also had my kids in small high schools, big high schools, and then these mammoth high schools that we're in. All of your numbers said at most, I think you said 2,200. Was it 2,100 or
2,100?
2,100. Okay, so 2,100 kids. So I did a little math. 2,100 kids. If we got our 2 high schools down to 2,100 kids, we would have to have another high school that had 937 students. So that's hard, I've talked to people and administrators, and a lot of them like that 1,800 range, because it seems to give kids what they need without getting, because you go to Chihuahua and the staff doesn't even know each other. I mean, that's insane. So we know what we're doing right now isn't okay, and the numbers scared me to death. I love Dr. Richardson's idea of doing something like New Horizons. I would love to find a partnership that we could do for $3.5 million that would house 300 high schoolers. I mean, that would be ideal. So anytime anything like that comes up, we should jump on it. So I love the idea of having some of these programs that are smaller within schools. I know that that's what helped my daughter, who thrived at a small school, got involved with the music program, and it became her world there, and she absolutely loved it. And then I have a son who absolutely hated his small high school. So yes, do kids, even in the same families, kids have different needs. But I appreciated the fact that she wanted to serve both those needs for my kids just with the programs that they had. And I think we could have done that even better if we did some of these programs. So I think this gives us a lot of food for thought. We undoubtedly need a new high school. We undoubtedly need a new middle school, and the costs of building are scary. So, I mean, hopefully we can get those on a bond that's 2 years out, so we can do a lot of preparing the community for. And if we can get a small high school for $4 or $5 million, borrowing space from somewhere, that would be ideal.
I think it's a good point, because we had the enrollment report tonight as well, and so we're just shy of 5,400, which is 3 times that magical 1,800 that you're talking about.
But I took out the New Horizons and all of those, and I got down to 5,137 for our 2 big high schools. So that's the ones that, yeah. I mean, if we would still be over 1,800 in every single school if we, yeah, it's tough.
So, Dr. Rodriguez, I know I won't quote you on the numbers, but could you give us an estimate of how many kids applied for Delta from Pasco and how many were able to matriculate there over the last year, 1 to 2, 3 years?
So the seats, we take in, as you know, at Delta, 9th graders. It's a lottery-based system. The seats are proportional between the 3 district partners based upon the secondary enrollment overall in those 3 districts. So Pasco, for a number of years now, has had 46 slots for incoming freshmen. Every year, we have no problem filling those in Pasco, and typically have 80 to 120 kids that are sitting on that wait list.
So we have roughly 2 to 3 times the number of slots, number of kids that want to go there that can actually attend. And I'd like to see us, I'm throwing out crazy stuff here, but I'd like to see us stop focusing on STEM in elementary school and focus more on STEM in middle and high school. I think it's the wrong approach, and we need to reevaluate this, but having had kids that all of my children have attended a STEM school, I don't think it's the right approach to push our kids in elementary school to become scientists, and then we're not even offering the opportunities in middle and high school for those kids, even just those kids from those schools. I think in elementary school we need to get back to focusing on the basic traditional elementary education. Now, some of the principles, I think, are great principles that could be applied to everything, all of our schools in teaching. They don't have to be a STEM school to combine and coordinate lessons in, between different subjects. I mean, that's brilliant, and anyone can do that. It doesn't have to be a STEM school. But to me, it doesn't make sense to have these programs in elementary school, but then we don't have anything in middle school or high school other than for 46 students. And our high schools are doing great, and our middle schools trying to expand those programs, but I feel like we kind of have it backwards, like it should be that first, and then if you want to go down and have other younger kids do that. But the younger kids, I mean, our kindergartners do not need to be like becoming a scientist and being encouraged to be a scientist. They need to learn how to read and how to really just social engagement, how is it proper to engage socially. So I'd like to see that switched. New Horizons, another idea. You can only start there in 10th grade unless that changed this year and I'm not aware of it. Is that still the case? You have to first go to Chihuahua or Pasco, and then you have to be recommended or referred to go to New Horizons starting in 10th grade. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And students apply, and they prioritize students who are
referred by their
further
counselor.
behind.
Yeah, so many of the students I've met with at New Horizons, they said they were referred or recommended by their counselor, that they were too far behind in credits. And in the meantime, I'd like to see us maybe adapt that and make it so that we can just have 9th graders go there that just know that they are not, it's just not going to work for them at a school with 2,700 high school students. It's just not. And so to make them go there and try it, just give it a try, is just wrong, I think. There are kids there that I met that they just knew it. They needed to be at a smaller area. And so that's something that we could change and adapt without building any more buildings. And I know people laugh at like the cost or the for find if something comes up, do it. No, I mean, these are things we can plan for and be looking for and make happen, and it takes planning, saving up impact fees. It's not something we just hope falls in our lap. We have to plan for these types of things and stop buying portables, which the board has been pretty unanimous on in the past, and start being proactive about this and not just hope that something happens in a couple of years that's going to help these kids.
I do think there are some opportunities within the existing comprehensive high school programs to help kids feel like it's smaller. So I think sometimes it is looking at those school within a school models, and I think with the bilingual educator program that we're just dipping a toe in this fall at Pasco High, I think looking at that P-TECH model, there's heavy interest, from our business community here to see that come off the ground. And so I think there's some opportunities to try to help a big school feel small for kids who find that to be a better fit. That's not to discount. I would love if we had 10 different programs that kids could pick from. But realistically, the cost efficiencies aren't there to do that right now. The other piece I just would mention that you commented on was around Delta. Not all those students go there because it's STEM. So I think it's bigger than just looking at STEM at middle school, high school. About half the students that apply and attend there come because it is a small school program, not for the STEM specifically. So I just thought that was important to share.
Yeah, that's a great clarification. Students have told me that. I've had multiple patients that's the only reason they go. They don't even care about STEM. And this is in no way a knock on our high schools. Our high schools are doing amazing trying to adapt and meet the needs of these kids, but they have too many kids. And there's no way you can make going to Chiawana in the morning feel small when there's buses and cars everywhere. There's thousands of kids. No matter what you do, it will not feel small. But this is in no way a criticism of them. We just need to be more creative. Like I said, the New Horizons, that's not going to cost any more building space. I mean, maybe if we could use it, but we can do things that will help and meet some of those needs. This is about meeting the needs of the students. And again, it's not a criticism of our high schools. It's just that that's not going to work for a lot of our kids.
So let me say first, thank you for that presentation. There's a lot of good information there. To me, I look at this, I think small schools would be wonderful, especially if our students had an idea what they wanted to do and we could target schools towards a program that they wanted to go into. I think for one of my sons, that would have been a great thing for him. My concern is this primarily is we have, what's Chiawana? Is it 2,700 now? 2,600, 2,700? It's big. If we, 28? Oh my goodness. All right. So even if we took those two high schools, Pasco and Chiawana, and divided that by 3, we would have 3 equally sized high schools of 1,700 students plus each. And so to me, our first goal needs to be to get those down, and building a 300 or 400 student high school is not going to do it. So while I like the idea of smaller schools, smaller high schools, especially ones with focused programs, economically, to me, our first concern needs to be to get those schools down to another size, which means another comprehensive high school in my world. And so while I like this, I would hate for this to be a distraction from what I think would be the best solution, would be a bigger comprehensive high school. If we did that, Chiawana is a huge building, and we could potentially put another program within that building so we could utilize that entire building without having, a huge comprehensive high school there. So I think we have some options. I think Dr. Richardson's been the one that's been talking about this. I think this gives us a lot of things to think about. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from our technical working group. I'm not sure what their title is, and also our community builders. We should have a long-term facilities plan here coming up fairly soon, and I think the sooner we get that, the sooner we get started down this pathway, the better it is for all of our students. So thank you for the work you've done tonight and for this presentation.
Sorry, can I make one more comment?
I have one more. Oh, go ahead, Amy.
Hey, just when he was talking about Chiawana and getting a bigger school and that being a big building, one of the harder decisions I made on this board was to not build on to Chiawana. And I made that decision because I knew if we built a school for 2,800 kids, we would always have 2,800 kids in that school. And so instead, and as a board, I think we all chose that because instead we have 16 portable classrooms at Chiawana High School. Not ideal, we need a new high school. And we almost have to put those portables there to prove to the community that we need a new high school. But what a great way to build on Chiawana if we could put in a school within a school model that utilized, building on so that we could utilize a couple of those wings for different programs. Chiawana probably has the ideal setup, even a separate principal and just smaller community there, everything. I would support the cost of building on Chiawana for something like this. So I think we have some great ways to make things smaller, but right now we need a new high school. Big one.
And my comments kind of tied to what you say. Are there any examples, but what we're talking about here is after the fact and making it, a small school within a big school, and you referenced it also. And I'm from Vancouver. We had lots of these types of schools, like an art school and all of these things, but they were usually afterthoughts built in old buildings that were replaced by new in lieu, or built in buildings that they were able to find for cheap prices like that. Are there any examples you have where a district has went out and built basically a comprehensive high school to take advantage of the economies of scale? So, common areas, parking lots, gyms, all of that is in one spot, and then you had different buildings that were physically separated but smaller, and maybe they're even cheaper because you're not building the towering ceilings and stuff that some of the new high schools have. Is there any districts that have planned for that and made 3 smaller, an arts school, a science school, a whatever school, three or so schools of 500 or 600 kids, but then also taking advantage of those economies of scale for the common areas and everything else? Do we have any examples of that?
Not that I'm aware of. Often those programs start small and build, and so they use borrowed space. They end up in portables. They make do with what they can to kind of get things started. So not within a real separate schools within a school. Certainly, though, career academies has been done before. So there have been high schools that were developed really with career academies. Now, it wasn't separated perhaps to the extent of having separate administrators, although that might have helped really kind of put the barriers around the programs a little bit, and then to share cafeteria, share gym, share fine arts space. Certainly there could be some wins to that fiscally. Chiawana, as you mentioned, the existing structure with the wings already has office spaces and then a wing, and then there's kind of labs that are accessible by multiple, and obviously gym space and those kinds of things. So actually the design of Chiawana as it exists today, it would be possible to go in that direction.
Yeah. I'd be interested in the board/district researching that and being innovative, and look, if you can't find examples, just thinking out how that would work so that you still have those benefits you talk about with the comprehensive high school for extracurricular opportunities, sports, all on one campus, but also the benefits that many on the board have talked about of the benefits of the smaller school. And it might take more staff if you had to have an administrator for each of the small schools, but I'd be interested in seeing those kind of options. What's that?
We have several administrators. When we have that many students, we have to anyway. And often, like with the P-TECH model that I talked about, in about half the locations, that's done as a school within a school model. And so they do some things like, paint the hallway a different color. So there's a feel that we're our own program, but they have that shared athletics and shared cafeteria and some of those other pieces so that kids still get the good things that come from being in a larger comprehensive high school too.
Can you go to your slide that had the $23 million estimate for I just want to be clear that I'm not proposing or in favor. I don't even think I would be in favor of this myself, doing this type of a thing for $23 million. And I absolutely agree that we need a third comprehensive high school, and that would be a priority. I'm trying to help us think outside the box and try to do some of these things simultaneously. I'm not proposing or saying that I would be in favor of doing some of this in place of another comprehensive high school. I think that is an absolute priority. I'm trying to say that if we can be proactive and plan for some things, we can do other things right now without another bond, without being done in place of another high school by, allowing ninth graders to go to New Horizons, by saving up impact fees and using that money to repurpose another area for $3 to $4 million, things like that. So that's what I would be in favor of. I don't even think I would be in favor of this myself, spending $23 million for a school that we could put 400 high school students in.
Okay, any other board comments? All right, it's 8:35, but we will allow anybody in the audience if you want to make a comment. Please. No. See, can you come to the microphone and just tell us your name and? Depends what you have to say.
So my name is Frances Gentry, and I'm new to this district. I just moved here in May, and I just want to say that this is really exciting to me. My kiddos actually went to MCP in Kennewick, and this is, for one of my kids, the first time ever in any public school setting at all, being here in Pasco. And I was just kind of making some notes, and I think it's kind of interesting thinking about the kind of programs that are offered in Pasco and Kennewick and Richland combined, and coming from MCP and knowing how many students, which it's small, I think like 130 students, maybe 150 there, that were actually coming from Pasco, and they're going to another district and not staying here for things like the homeschool co-op. So I have 4 kids in 3 different schools in 2 different districts, and one of the reasons why one of my kiddos is not in this district is because of the sheer size of the high schools. It's just not conducive to her it wasn't her choice to move to Pasco, and so we accommodated her to be able to stay, but these high schools are amazing. I mean, she competes against Pasco, and Pasco has some phenomenal programs, and so I have another kiddo, unfortunately, that if these sizes stay this big, would not be able to attend high school and possibly even middle school because of the sizes. So nothing really constructive other than this is really exciting to me, and seeing the forward progression, and this district is very innovative. I have a kiddo also in SPED, and just the difference between Kennewick and Pasco is enormous. So there are so many things that are right, and I think you're on the right track, thinking of different things that you can do. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Gentry. We're glad to have you in our community. Anybody else? All right, thank you. So with that, let's go to future agenda items.
So at our next board meeting, we'll have a study session where we'll I'll be bringing back some prioritized topics based on our discussion on annual district objectives. So this is part 3 to that discussion. We also have 3 different reports and/or discussions. One is the response to a public comment made some time ago on board elections. A community member asked the board to look into director districts or ways to ensure that individual community votes are proportional in elections. And so Sarah will be bringing back some information as requested by the board. This is also a reschedule of the athletic field design update for Stevens Middle School and Middle School number 4. Dr. Reyes will be bringing that back. She'll also have some members of the group that worked on those designs, some of our employees here to help provide context for that report. And then another new member of our team, Mr. Steve Story, will be here to discuss a bus lease program that we have the opportunity to explore participating in. So we'll be giving the board some information about that for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Anything board members want to see on a future agenda? Anything that's come up tonight, or any ideas you've had?
Just maybe a follow-up to this in 3 to 4 months. I don't know what the time frame would be, but some sort of follow-up to.
Sure, and we can do that maybe when we get an update to our facility, our long-range facility planning. Okay. All right, thank you. So, communications, Mr. Lehrman, would you like to start?
Yes.
I just wanted to share about the Great Horizons summer graduation. It was great. You know, the summer graduations are always great to see the extra input and the journey that the kids have been on. And I think they had 11 altogether, although only 9 of them, I think, walked that evening. So that was a great experience. Thank you.
Just want to thank Mr. Sullivan for his help during our transition, during this bargaining, new state legislation, huge lift to step in and help us out. Super excited about our new hire. Mr. Hebden's going to be a great, amazing addition to our district, and just pleased with the way we were able to get through this transition period. So.
Okay, so Pasco High had 2 events within these first 2 weeks of school. So on August 30th, they had the all sports barbecue to kick off all fall sports for this school year. And then last Friday, we had a kickoff for the first home football game, which was against Eastmont. And then coming up on September 12th, we have open house from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And then starting next week on the 17th, student work from Pasco High will be displayed here at the Booth Building until November 16th. And then also the week of September 24th through the 28th, Pasco High DECA Club will be putting on Suicide Awareness Week.
I just want to again point out the kids that came and did the flag salute, and I remember as an elementary schooler I got the opportunity to do that, and I just think that it's a great opportunity for the kids because it helps them recognize that the school district cares about their achievements and things, and so I think that's a great thing that you do.
Well, I am sorry for my late entrance. I was actually at MAC. It was the open house, and I felt very strongly I needed to meet my daughter's teachers. I made it to 4 of the 6 and then ran out, and I knew the other 2, so I felt pretty confident, and I feel better about the situation. But even just being there, anyway, this is a time when I'm with all my children. I'm in and out of the schools a lot, and I so appreciate the work that the teachers, the staff, everyone does to get this running and off the board. Even though everything doesn't always run smoothly, we are getting better. And I also appreciate hearing from a staff member and talking about the difference in the culture of our school district over the last 3 years. And I think that's wonderful. I love that I'm hearing that now from teachers. I hope that's something that's across the board, but I know at least it's up and coming. So I do appreciate that and all the work that is done at this busy time of year.
I also attended the New Horizons High School graduation. I think they're going to have 60 total graduates this year, so it's been a big year for them. I would just remind my fellow board members, not this weekend, but next weekend is the WASDA Legislative Assembly. I will be attending for our district where WASDA sets its priorities for the upcoming legislative session, so I will or probably Michelle will get something sent out to you, but if you get a chance to review that and give me any feedback, I would appreciate it so that I can have that information before I go. Okay.
I don't have anything for communications tonight, but I was just going to renew my request for executive session under 4231-101G for personnel. We would expect it to take about 45 minutes.
Okay, so 45 minutes. If you want to catch the adjourning of the meeting, be here. Until then, we are recessed into executive session.